1991 was a great year for Sega. While everybody was expecting Nintendo to swoop in and once again dominate the market with their 16-bit system, Sega didn't let that happen. They spent the whole year introducing us to top-selling games like Sonic the Hedgehog and Streets of Rage, franchises that are still going strong to this very day. One of the real highlights of that year was Shining in the Darkness, a role-playing game for the Genesis that was developed by Climax Entertainment. While it was certainly overshadowed by some of the bigger hits in 1991, it did pave the way to a whole series of Shining games that have continued well into the 21st century. And that got me wondering what Electronic Gaming Monthly thought of this franchise. Did they have a favorite Shining game? Now, believe it or not, EGM reviewed a total of 11 games in the extended Shining universe. That includes a lot of Shining Force games, as well as Shining Wisdom, Shining Tears, Shining Soul, Shining the Holy Ark, and more. Sadly, they did not get around to reviewing Shining in the Darkness, the first entry in this long-running series. They also missed out on a bunch of the PSP games released after the magazine was shuttered. Yeah, that sucks, but I think you're going to agree that we have more than enough games to make a great list. What we're going to do today is count down the best and worst Shining series games using Electronic Gaming Monthly's own words and scores. There's no editorializing here, we're just going to focus on what the critics said back when these games first came out. Oh, I sure hope you brought some powerful sunglasses because the future is bright when EGM ranks Sega's Shining series.
で蘇るあの熱い戦いオリジナルシナリオを引っ提げてパワーアップしたタクティカルバトル伝説シャイニングフォースガイデンゲームギアから新登場
We're gonna kick things off with number 11, Shining Wisdom on the Saturn. I haven't seen anything new in a while in the RPG world, and Shining Wisdom keeps up the status quo. Besides having a nice color palette, this game looks like it belongs on a 16-bit system. Some of the conversations in this game are really wordy and useless. At points, I stop talking to people just to avoid scrolling through the text. I also prefer turn-based combat versus this Zelda style of live combat, but that's just a personal preference. The quest is linear, you access every place in a certain order. There are plenty of secrets hidden around the large maps, but besides that, there's not much to excite an RPG enthusiast. Number 10, Shining Force EXA on the PlayStation 2. The constant interruption by the castle defense scenarios other critics speak of didn't bother me so much. What's irritating is that they add absolutely nothing to this game. Had they offered a different gameplay experience, maybe something more strategic than the rest of the game, they'd be worthwhile. Perhaps even a throwback to the old Genesis Shining Force series. As is, most of the exact same hack-and-slash schlock interrupts the main game, making EXA super generic and forgettable. Number 9, Shining Tears on the PlayStation 2. I was wary at first of this RPG's dialogue bubble-heavy pseudo-cutscenes and the Lord of the Rings light storyline of magical rings, an amnesiac ring-bearer, and the ring's dark hidden powers. But an easy-to-learn combat and customization system really helped me swallow that stuff and have a right good time. The cartoon graphics rank up there with the babiest of any games, and it's all droopy-eyed and anime cliches. But you can save anywhere or enter and exit battles when needed. Nice touches that make this one user-friendly. Number 8, Shining Force Gaiden, the Sword of Hajya on the Game Gear. A nice RPG offering for the portable system. Although it is scaled down from the 16-bit Big Brother version, this one keeps almost all the same elements. There's several hours of gameplay in this one, with the music and graphics taking first chair. This is the type of game made for the portable system when you take a long trip. Number 7, Shining Force 2 on the Genesis. A worthy follow-up to the first role-playing game with bigger areas to explore and characters to meet. This will definitely appeal to fans of the first one and to RPG fans in general. It assumes that you've played the first Shining Force, but the story could use a few more twists and turns. The music is very good, as is the easy-to-follow control configuration. Number 6, Shining Soul on the Game Boy Advance. If you've ever wondered what PC hit Diablo might look like if it were on a handheld and a lot cuter, then look no further than Shining Soul. With 4 distinct playable character classes, a massive collection of uniquely cool items to find, and 4-player link action at the ready, this game is eminently playable, and more importantly, replayable. All the hacking and slashing should get old after a while, but the infamous quest for stuff kept me going for the long haul. Number 5, Project Cross Zone on the Nintendo 3DS. Project Cross Zone brings together more than 200 characters from various Namco, Bandai, Capcom, and Sega properties and sets them loose in a wild and wacky strategic RPG filled with fan service and clever cameos. There's just one problem. Monolith Soft seems to have taken their combat pacing from Goku and Frieza's legendarily drawn-out clash at Planet Namek. These battles are as long as a baseball game, in real time! Still, the fighting game-style confrontations definitely keep things interesting, and this one's certainly worth considering if you're a fan of tactical RPGs, or seeing Frank West, Cosmos, and Tronbon combined to beat down evildoers. Number 4, Shining Soul 2 on the Game Boy Advance. The amount of shine added to Soul's sequel is, well, almost enough. This action RPG easily surpasses its predecessor with diverse environments and a wide variety of character types. Also, I'm always a sucker for a game resembling Phantasy Star Online, where I can team up with buddies to conquer beasties and discover ultra-rare weapons. Yet, too few identifying scrolls in the beginning of the game leave you flat broke, and while the story is a step up from the original, the narrative could still use some work. Number 3, Shining the Holy Ark on the Saturn. This game is a little Kingsfield mixed with stock RPG battles and a great storyline. The entire game is 3D, with excellent rendered characters as friends or foes. The one feature that impressed me the most was the seamless tie-in of cinemas and actual gameplay. Only the command interface hurts as you wade through tons of screens just to heal yourself. Number 2, Shining Force Resurrection of the Dark Dragon on the Game Boy Advance. For those with enough geek cred to remember the first Shining Force when it hit the Genesis in 1992, this refurbished version may be something of a letdown. Developer Sega AV, also known as Amusement Vision, replaced the formerly dark graphics with Super Nintendo-style pastels. And the game has a few tiny enhancements, mostly to make it easier for modern players. But compared to Advance Wars and other Game Boy Advance originals, Resurrection will seem old-fashioned and heavy on the fighting. It's still a classic and addictive if given the attention it deserves, but it could have done with still more sprucing up. And finally, at number 1, Shining Force 3 on the Saturn. Shining Force 3 takes everything that made the Genesis games great and pumps it up to the next level. The 3D engine is great, some of the best graphics the Saturn has ever seen, and the music and story are top-notch. Kudos to Sega for doing such a nice job on the translation. The battles are perfectly balanced throughout, even at the end, and they're a lot of fun to play. Sega, please give us Scenarios 2 and 3.
3つのドラマの RPG シャイニングフォース3セガサターン
Hey, thanks for watching us count down these classic reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we have a whole playlist with dozens of these episodes. I mean, it has to be up to 60 or 70 or maybe even 80 by now, including franchises like Sonic, Mario, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Burnout, Twisted Metal, Ridge Racer, Tekken, Street Fighter 2, and more. So much more. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite Shining game? Oh, there are so many to choose from, so I can't wait to see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we're hard at work for a great Turkey Day special that's going to run on Thanksgiving. We're also going to be back later this week with some more reviews and surprises. While I wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,